The lesson.
Oh yeah.
One of the biggest hip hop artists that we have in Australia is Kerser. And I mean, he's a big artist for a lot of different reasons. And I think one of them being that he really, he really did it independently, or like almost as independently as you can do it to get to that level. As well as I think he sort of came in around, I think like 09-ish. And there was a bit of a void there in Australian rap at the time, I think. The Hoods had popped off heavy in 03. And, there were things happening. But he just kind of came in at a time where there was a space for it. And nobody really knew there was a space for it. Now, my question to you is, first of all, the Kerser 360 battle.
Yes.
That's something that you're familiar with.
I couldn't recite it line for line, but yeah, I'm familiar with it.
Now, do you remember much of it from the last time you saw it, and what was your take on the battle? Did you ever do a reaction video to that battle?
Yeah. I think early doors, that was something that I checked out quite early on. Sorry. That's something that I checked out quite early on. I remember when I was doing live streams before, I believe that was my second ever live stream that I ever did. So that was quite early on in the whole reaction business. And I've followed battle rap for a while anyway. And so when they were like, check out, this is like Australia's most popular battle rap like event ever. Like, this was probably the most iconic moment. I was all over that. I was like, yeah, of course I'll check that out. And I remember checking it out at the time, and I think I remember scoring it 2-1 to 360. I think that's how I scored it at the time. And people were like, you can't do that. You can't do that. You must hate Kerser. You can't do that. And I remember copping a lot of hate for thinking that at the time. And I was just like, that's just what I think. Like, that's just my opinion. That's all. That was on my first. And, sometimes you need to watch a battle 2-3 times over. Sometimes you need to be in the venue and you get a different feel for it. But at the time of watching it live on camera, like, my hot take was, 2-1. I believe that's what it was anyway. I remember saying that I thought 361. And I thought it was a dope event anyway. Obviously, it's before the time that it is now, so obviously the standards are different. That's something that I've had to learn doing the reactions. I ironically, through Kerser, I remember reviewing, I think it was his album from was it the Nebulizer? I think it was a Nebulizer, or one of his albums early on, or mixtapes early on. And I remember reviewing it, and I said that this is all right, that's what I like, and this is what I don't like. And he DM'd me, and he was just like, cunt. You're reviewing something in 2019 that I did back in 2010, 2011. Like, you can't hold that to today's standards. And I didn't think of that. And I went, you know what? Thank you for DMing me about that, because I didn't think about that. So respect to you for actually, talking to me about that, because that's something I didn't think of. And I held my hands up and I was like, you know what? That's fair enough. And so I think the same with that battle, There's only so much that I can appreciate it, because I didn't grow up in Australia listening to Aussie rap and growing up listening to Kerser and being there at the time. So I'm sure that if I was there in that present moment, it would mean a lot more to me. The same as in 2015, 2016, when Chip and Bugsy Malone in the UK had a grime clash, and they had back and forths for about a month or two, That was a massive moment in the UK scene. It almost sparked UK rap and grime back up again. And it caused 2016 to have an immaculate year. 2016 was probably the best year for UK music in the last decade. And so the same way that I will always appreciate that, if I was to show that to an Aussie, they may like it, they may dislike it, but it will never hold the same weight because you wasn't here when it happened. The same way I can't appreciate certain events when they happen at the time in Australia, especially in the past, because I wasn't there. I haven't grown up just in Australia, full stop. So there's a certain level of appreciation that I can't access, as opposed to someone who was there live at that event. But I can understand why that was a big moment, learning about the history of that and the rivalry that they had and the back and forths that were, said before, during, and even after. And so I think things like that are very important. How much someone outside of the scene will understand can only go so far.
And then, so I guess it'd be interesting to get your take on what your thoughts are on Kerser as an artist as a whole, because when he first came in the scene in Australia, very polarized figure. People either loved him or they really didn't like him. And I really do believe that over time, a lot of the people that didn't initially like him are Kerser fans now. And that's one of the things that I think is the coolest about him as an artist, is that I was there when he first dropped. I heard it all. And I saw over the last 10 years how
people switched and moved over.
And that to me has actually been a pretty amazing thing to watch. It's just like, wow. And he's always his goal's been 10 albums in 10 years, and he just dropped number 9. And so I guess two parts of the question. First of all, what did you think of the last album that he did, and what do you think of Kerser overall as an artist? What are the things that you like? What are the things that you dislike?
Yeah. So I did a full album review to his last album recently. Not that I'm a professional album reviewer, but it's just my thoughts and opinions. When I first reacted to Kerser, I think the first ever reaction I did, I always forget the name of it. It was one where he was talking about drug addiction. And I remember doing that review and I was like, this track's dope. I like it. I really like it. And but it got copyright strikes. It didn't go up live on YouTube, so no one actually ever seen that one. And I remember putting that comment out, and I was just like, guys, I need a new song to react to. And so people were like, review one of his Dead Sets. And I was like, which Dead Set shall I do? And they were like, 5. I mean, there was a bunch of different numbers, but 5 was the one I seen most. So I was like, right, Dead Set 5, let's do it. And so I've reacted to Dead Set 5. And I remember it had that very electronic club festival sound. And I remember the drop hit and I was just blank-faced. I was just like, I'm not feeling it. I'm not feeling it. And I didn't understand the amount of love and appreciation Kerser had. So I mean, not that it would change my opinion. I mean, I've said in that video, I don't like this. This is not good at all. But it's not for me. This is not my kind of music. I'm a rap, hip-hop, grime head. I'm not really into that electronic techno kind of rap, should you say. And I remember saying I didn't like it. And I woke up in the morning to death threats. Like, how dare you say that about our king? How dare you say that about Kerser? And, people just going absolutely nuts. They were like, how dare you disrespect Kerser? How dare you? And people went nuts. And I was looking at I was reading some of these comments, whether it be on YouTube or a DM. And I was like, wow. This man has a lot of love for him. I think that's sick. And I was smiling. I'm reading these death threats. I'm seeing people go, "You're Gronk. I'm gonna turn up to your house and stab you. You can't." And I'm looking at this and I'm like, I'm smiling. I'm like, he really has people like on this. This is amazing. And so from there, I kind of shot myself in the foot because people then thought I hated Kerser, and this stigma is still around to this day of people just, if I don't say it's 11 out of 10, people are like, how dare you disrespect the king? And it's the most fascinating thing to me of how much of a cult following he has. It's a different level of appreciation. And as much as, and similar to what you said, over time, I'm understanding it more and more and more. I think it's amazing in a lot of ways. Yeah. There's a few people that I think they need to get checked, but I think it's sick that they have such a high level of appreciation for someone and they are just ride or die for their favorite artist. I think that's sick in a lot of ways. If he means that much to you, like, that's sick. And so over time, reviewing more on Kerser stuff, there was things that I loved that he dropped. There was other things that I was like, I'm not really feeling that. And there was other things that I was like, that's okay. And even the ones that I said, that's okay or that's good, people will be like, just good? What do you mean just good? And so, I've had a tough time reviewing Kerser, but I've always stuck true to my word. I'm not going to pretend to like an artist more than I ever do. I like Kerser, and I would happily say that I respect him and I like him more as a person than I do as an artist. I still like him as an artist, but he's a good artist in my opinion. And as I'm saying this, I can already see the comments that are going to come with it. What do you mean he's just good? In my opinion, Kerser is a good artist. He's not a bad artist, and I can understand why people love him. But maybe I prefer a different type of sound. Like people like different stuff. Not everything that you listen to you love, and just because someone's your favorite artist doesn't mean it's gonna be my favorite artist, you know. And so I guess it's just different with Kerser. I mean, it's just a different level of following for him, but I massively respect him as a person, and especially with the interactions that I've had with him, because I've upset artists in the past, I've angered or triggered an artist by what I've said, or even just an artist has disagreed with me. And Kerser's disagreed with me in the past, but the one thing I have massive respect for him is, and I'm sure he does, well, I've already said it, I'm sure he doesn't mind me talking about it, but he's actually DM'd me and said, right, let's sort this out now. This is what I think, this is what you think. And more times than not, we've come to an agreement of, we have different opinions, but I respect yours. And we've got to that point before, and me and Kerser are perfectly fine. Like, people seem to think we hate each other. No. Kerser has his banter, he can mock me sometimes. I sometimes say, your fans are a bit crazy. And there we go, we keep it going. It's kind of, it's not a love-hate relationship, but yeah, we just, he's very honest. I'm very honest, I would like to say anyway. And so, yeah, we keep it moving. I respect Kerser as a person more than anything else. Yeah, just how he carries himself, and yeah, definitely.
And then, so you talk about the interactions that you guys have had, and I'm not sure if you're familiar with Beers Beats and the Biz podcast.
Yeah, of course.
Here in Australia. And now, I haven't actually heard the full episode, but I did hear through the grapevine that in his episode, your name has come up, and he wasn't too happy with you about certain things. Are these the things that you're talking about, or was that like other things?
I think it was another track review. I think it was not Kerser's last album. I think it was his Lifestyle album. When I did my review for that, my professional review. And I remember saying about the track with him and JD, What Your Day Brings To. I was just like, meh, it's alright. And yeah, they weren't too happy about that. I think it was more Jay than it was Kerser. I don't know, I could be wrong. And I also misquoted Jay in that video, so I kind of discussed that on my podcast, and I kind of give my thoughts and kind of responded to what they said, and I misquoted Jay. It was actually Jake Biz who actually said a certain quote. I don't remember off the top of my head, so I'm not going to do any more quoting before I misquote somebody else. But yeah, I mean, I've already addressed that. We've moved on from that. I mean, like, again, that's another situation where me and Kerser just sorted that out. We're good. I haven't personally spoke with Jay much. We've had one, maybe two conversations through DMs. And again, I think it's another one of them, just agree to disagree. But I still respect these guys. Like, I'll still review their stuff. You know what I mean? I'm still okay with these guys. I don't hate them. They don't hate me, to my knowledge, unless it's a two-faced situation, which is something I don't take them boys for. And so, yeah, I mean, it's all good now. We've sorted it. Yeah.
The lesson. Oh, yeah.